Hello world, and we are back. My name is Kyle Fischl. This is going to be episode 186 of my poker vlog. For this one, I play a 2-5 session at the Tampa Hard Rock, and we have a ton of hands to go over, so we're going to get right into them. We buy into this 2-5 game for $900, nice even single rack. Before the first hand dealt at a new table, I'm under the gun with King 10 of hearts. I raised to $20. The cutoff is the only caller, so we're heads up to a flop, which comes 10-6-3 with 2 diamonds. All right, we flop top pair, really good kicker. Gonna throw out a bet here. I bet half pot for $20. My opponent does not take too long before making the call. The turn is the 4 of clubs. Shouldn't really change anything. Maybe some very small 2-pair and straights get there, but don't really expect too many of those hands to be within opponent's range. So I continue for $50. Hoping to see a non-diamond river card. My opponent makes the call, pretty happy to see it. The river is the queen of spades. My opponent does have queen X of diamonds specifically sometimes, so that's somewhat concerning, but I've got 2 streets of value. I think now my hand turns into a pretty natural check call. Check, give my opponent a chance to bluff if he has like 8-9, 7-8, random diamonds, all that jazz. When I check, my opponent bets $100. Pretty easy call. I have second pair, pretty much best kicker. Expect my opponent to bluff if he missed his diamonds and sometimes have a queen, but he has ace 10. So what a thin value bet on the river. Like, how does he get paid here by worse? But getting absolutely maximum pipped on the very first hand will lead me into not the greatest start. But with the button straddle, we look down at 4-3 of hearts from the small blind. We're going to limp, see what develops. New table, people are pretty tight at this point. And we end up getting the +2 player to limp and the button to check his option. So we end up going 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace 10 deuce with 2 diamonds. Alright, so we have a gutter to the nut wheel straight, but diamonds will be pretty dicey. When I check, the +1 checks and the button bets $35. Overbets the pot. And this makes no sense at all. If my opponent had a strong ace, he would definitely have bet pre. He would not have checked his option. So not thinking he's too strong and thinking he's just betting because it's checked to him, I'm going to peel one, go for a float, see if I can steal it on later streets. The +1 player calls as well, so really not happy to see that one. And when the turn is the 3 of diamonds, I'm pretty much done with this hand. Not planning on putting any more money in this pot. I check, and somehow it checks through, and I river the 5 of spades. So now I have a straight. It checked through on the turn. The +2 position player could have a flush, but hopefully he just has an ace, and the button player just has nothing and bet because it was checked to him. So we're going for some value here. Hopefully an ace pays us off. A pure bet fold line, because if raised, my opponent obviously has a flush. I bet $75, and it does not take too long for this opponent to raise to 200. Yeah, why not? Just have a flush. Easy game. It is early on in the session, so I don't really expect my opponent to bluff all too often, or bluff in general. I just fold, and I'm kind of happy with this fold because I literally never saw this opponent play another hand for the entire rest of the day, besides this one hand where he raises river. So, think he just had a flush. We lose the minimum, apart from not betting river, which I think would be just too tight. But we have ace-king offsuit. In the small blind, I raised to $30 after a button straddle. The button is the only caller, so we end up going heads up to a flop, which comes king, queen, 7 rainbow. So I have top pair, top kicker, but this opponent has shown the ability to overbet with absolutely nothing. So we're going to check, give him some rope, and my opponent does not disappoint. He bets $50 on the flop. Pretty happy to call here. Turn is the jack of clubs, not my favorite. A lot of 2 pairs get there, some straights, a lot of holdings to be worried about when my opponent bets flop, but he checks the turn. All right, that means we should have the best hand here. The river is the 4 of spades, and we're gonna go for some value. $85 is the bet. Hopefully all single kings, single queens will pay this off. Maybe an ace X will be disbelieving. My opponent does pay, and ace-king is good, so we get some value there. We trend in the right direction before we look down at jack 10 of hearts. With 1 limp, I'm in the +1 position. I raise to $20. The button, the big blind, and the limper decide to call, so we end up going 4 ways to a flop, which comes 10-9-6, 2 hearts, top pair, and a flush draw. You can't really ask for more when you play these suited connectors. When it checks to me, I'm going to bet under half pot here. Not worried about too many runouts, just trying to build a pot. Should have the best hand by the river a decent portion of the time. I bet $35. The player who limped decides to be the only caller, so we're heads up to a turn card, which is the 5 of spades. I do think it's hard to get 3 streets of value from worse with this hand. So when my opponent checks to me, I think I'm going to go for some pot control because I do just have top pair with no real kicker. So we're going to go for pot control here and be able to bluff catch / value bet river. And the river is the king of hearts.
Hello there.
Bink a flush. Happy about that. Even better, my opponent bets small for 40. We're obviously raising here. If he has a better flush, I guess he's going to 3-bet me and put me in max pain. But this could just be a blocker bet with any pair, 2 pairs, straight. Maybe he rivered a king. So to the $40 bet, we're going to raise to $140. $100 please, sir, because I made a flush. Would love to get paid. And we do get paid. Flush is good. And we are trending in the right direction. Next hand of note. I'm on the button. I look down at pocket queens of the black variety. Folds all the way to the cutoff after I straddle. He limps. It's going to be 35 to play because I have pocket queens. My opponent makes the call. The flop is Jack 6-6. And when checked to, I'm just going to bet here. There's 2 diamonds out there, so flush draws get value from single jack holdings. I bet $40. And now my opponent raises to 100. With this small raise, I often think that it's people trying to name their own price. There's a lot of draws out there. I think if you had a 6, you would have to protect a little harder than just almost a min raise. Maybe a single jack is just trying to decide where they're at. So I decided to put in the flop 3-bet. Would love to max protect myself against flush draws. So I make it $240. I do like the flop 3-bet a lot. Not too many people do it as value or bluffs. I think I have a strong mix for it. But this time it works horribly as my opponent goes all in for $535. Well, now I'm in a stupid spot. It's 300 to win approximately 1,000. I'm never drawing dead, as if I call and my opponent happens to have a 6, I have queens. Sometimes the board's going to run Jack Jack and I get to counterfeit him. Additionally, I don't think it's impossible that my opponent just has a jack. Any 2 diamonds, as in Tampa, the play is a lot more gambly than other places in Florida. There are no nits here. Everyone's here throwing money around, putting people in difficult spots, and trying to win hands. So I'm going to put it in here. I have queens. If you have a 6, then it's just not my hand. And he does have 5-6 offsuit. All right, dealer, just hit me a queen. A 10 on the turn and a 4 on the river is not going to do it. We double this player up and queens are cracked. Well, I'm clearly tilted as I have 3 deuce of diamonds, and with 3 limps, I've button straddled every time. It's been limped so far, so this could be the one of the times where I just bluff my button straddle. Hopefully take it down pre. I make it 65 with a less than premium holding, but all 3 players call. So it's going to be tough to navigate this one, but the flop is 7, 8, 9 with 2 diamonds, and it checks to me. Now, I'm really expecting to get folds here all too often, but when you play 2, 3 of diamonds and you flop a flush draw, you kind of just have to bet it. So I bet $125, and somehow all 3 players fold. I'm kind of shocked to see this one, but we will definitely take it with 3 high. And now we have ace-queen offsuit. We're in the low jack. With a button straddle, there are 2 limps. I raise 260. If we're going to raise with bad hands, we got to raise with good hands. Ace-queen will be the raise. And similar to the last hand, all 3 players decide to call. So we're going 4 ways to a flop, which comes king, jack, 6, rainbow. In this hand, the small blind checks, big blind checks. I'm going to zoom in on this because after it checked all the way to the button, the small blind tried to claim that he did not check. I don't know what you can say about this particular action besides it's a check.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Even the dealer said, no, that's kind of a check. Didn't even call the floor, just kind of ruled it a check, but an interesting dynamic developing. When the turn is the king of diamonds, my opponent checks again. I don't know how you check / want to bet and then check when the top card pairs. I'm almost certain this opponent has a king, so I'm never bluffing on this one. This weirdness may have caused worry for everyone else because it checks through and the river is the 10 of clubs. We river a straight, and now the opponent that apparently wanted to bet flop bets $100. This is just such an eye roll spot. Like, can you please just have king queen here one time?
How about no?
And not king jack? I call because I can't fold a straight, and he has king jack. and I lose. And that one is extremely frustrating. I suppose exploitatively you could have used the tell of, you know, weird action / wanting to check as very strong, especially trying to protest with the dealer wanting to bet. But suppose we did not put any money in there until we made our hand and lost. So we are into the game 4 piles now, approximately $2,000. Not the direction we want to be in, but we're here to battle. And the table got extremely loose at this point. We're going $60 pre-multi-way, many hands. Happened to me a few times where I whiffed, but here's a fun example of one where I did not whiff. I have ace-5 of clubs in the big blind. Button straddles, small blind limps, I limp. Under the gun makes it 75. 1, 2, 3, 4 callers. I'm in there too. We are 6 ways, $75 a piece. After running this back, I actually thought about it. I think this is like one of the best spots you'll ever find for a limp squeeze 3-bet. Just limp all in. You bet $800, $900 to win $300. When called, you have ace-5. You block the premiums. No one can really be too strong as no one else 3-bet. As long as you get through the first aggressor, you're probably good. So this is actually probably the best spot you'll ever find to limp back raise, but I choose to just put 75 in to win 300. And the flop is decent. Ace, king, 9, 2 hearts, 1 club. Above average, pretty happy to see it, but not the pre-flop aggressor, so I'm not going to put money in myself. I check. Checks through. Checks all the way to the cutoff last player to act. If it checks through, I'll be pretty confident I have the best hand, but he throws $500 into the middle, and it folds back to me. This is a difficult spot when playing ace-5. We play this hand to try to flush over flush people. We really don't like seeing ace-high boards because our kicker's always garbage when we're reversing another ace. Is this opponent max protecting with a flush draw? Could he have like queen jack of hearts and thinking that it just checked to him and there's $300 out there? He is on his second bind. He could be tilting. Does he just have pocket 9s and he's going for a max protect? I guess king 9 is possible. I have backdoor clubs to fall back on if I need them. Pair of aces. This is just a really hard spot.
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
I'm already down piles. Maybe that's influencing my decision, but I eventually just decided that I'm going to fold because I also have 4 players behind that could just be super trapping with a premium. Like maybe the pre-flop aggressor has pocket aces and he's just, you know, trapping people. Unlikely with the draw out there, but not impossible. Either way, long-winded explanation for me kind of sheepishly folding. And one by one, everyone else folds, and the player who bet 500 shows the 9 of hearts. Kind of an interesting one to show. He would later say that he had ace-9, which I guess kind of makes sense, but even 9x of hearts, good hand. Regular 9 just turned into a bluff, would be absolutely sick. Another similar hand, I'm on the button this time with 1 limp. A middle position player raises to 40. Hijack cutoff calls, I call with queen jack offsuit. And the limper calls as well, so we end up going 5 ways to a flop, 40 apiece. This is one of the best action tables I've seen in such a long time. Feel happy to be able to sit at it. And the flop is ace, queen, deuce, rainbow. The pre-flop aggressor bets 40, and this is the same opponent that, you know, pot and a half it for 500 and showed a 9, so really mixing up the bet sizing, I would say, 500 to 40 in similar sized pots. When the cutoff calls, I'm not folding. I think he's just c-betting because he bet with no real plan when called. And everyone else folds, so we end up going 3 ways to a turn card, which is the 9 of hearts. Hoping it checks to me. If it checks to me, I'm definitely going to bet, thinking I have the best hand, thinking opponents could have like king jack, jack 10, worse queens, maybe pocket 10s that I don't want to give up. But unfortunately, the cutoff now bets $300. Man, this is just such a good game. I wish I had better cards to compete with. But with queen jack offsuit, second pair just can't really hold on. The pre-flop aggressor and flop aggressor folds too. And again, relatively friendly table. Opponent goes to fold and then shows an ace and then folds. So, you know, I get a better hand. We lose. But this brings us to the final hand of note. I have ace-king offsuit. When the dealer changes, the under-the-gun player decides to blind raise to 25. +1 blind raises to 50. And now the player who's next to act just open rips it for about $600. Well, with ace-king offsuit, with all this action, I have no other option. With 1200 effective, I'm all in as well. There's nothing else to do here. Got so much blind money in there, and someone who looks like he's just trying to steal the blind money. Ace-king is just a pure rip. Happy to get it in here. It folds all the way around. Everyone seems kind of mad with the blind raises, and they look at their cards, they fold. Ask my opponent if he wants to run it twice. He says no, 1 time. And against his range, I really just think he has like ace, queen, maybe tens, maybe jacks. Although jacks might not need to open rip, might be able standard open to like 150, 200. So very small pocket pairs and ace, queen is what I put him on. And when the flop is queen high, I am in agony. I lose to ace, queen. That sucks. But the turn is a king. I announce that's me. And when the river's an 8, my opponent shows king, queen offsuit.
I'm gonna straight up murder your ass. I did not see that coming.
So get it in just about as good as we possibly could. 73% chance to win given our exact suits. But today is just not my day. Turn the camera off to pay the man, and this is why there's a cut. This is the same moment in time. Turn it back on to show my opponent does not even stack the chips. They are going right into the rack. He's done. Gets a suck out double up, and he is out of there. I guess if you're coming to gamble and you finally win, you can leave whenever you want. So, no hard feelings, but just showing to show that this was frustrating for me to look at after I paid him off. And then looking down at my stack, I'm into the game for a ton of money. I am down $2,100 on the game, in for 4 hours, which equates to $525 an hour or 105 big blinds an hour. Yeah, on this day, results were quite abysmal. I think that the queens versus 5-6 hand is somewhat avoidable. Definitely losing a chunk as the runout never had a card higher than queen, but probably don't have to double the player off if I choose to just either check flop or just call. A lot of ways that does not get stacks in, but this time we chose aggression. It did not pay off. That's unfortunate. And obviously the biggest one's the one you just saw. Ace, king, all in pre against king, queen. And we lose. And that's disappointing. I do feel like when I get to like the super action tables, I always seem to run pretty poor, which would make sense because like the super action tables are there because players are putting all their money in with bad hands, and sometimes those hands are just going to win and you have to just get over it. Doesn't help the bottom line. It does suck to drop 2K in a single game, single day. It's quite a big hit, especially when a lot of videos on this channel are, you know, plus 400, plus 500, and drop 2K is it's a big one. It definitely sets you back, but we do crack on. We do keep playing. We don't let bad hands get in the way of our process and how we play and how we have made money previously. So if you made all this point, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching, listening, supporting, all of that, and I will see you on the next one.